Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the ERTMS 2022 conference. I hope you had a pleasant network dinner, and I am happy to see so many of you back here in this very nice conference center, Cité des Congrès, here in Valenciennes. Yesterday, we spoke a lot about the vision of ERTMS, about the importance of ERTMS for the European rail policy, or even more generally, the importance of ERTMS for the European transport policy. We got the views of the Commission. We discussed the contents of the upcoming TSI 2022 package, and in the afternoon there was an in-depth presentation of the new Europe's Rail joint undertaking with a specific focus on the system pillar. Some keywords that came repeatedly during the presentations and also in the discussions were the dichotomy between stability of the ERTMS specification and the need for innovation. But I would also include here the need for industrialization. We need to make sure that ERTMS remains an ambitious European industrial project with the aim to have industrial products that can be deployed in an industrial manner. Today, we will make the transition from the vision, from the regulatory and also the organizational situation to reality. And we will start this day with inputs from key stakeholders. So we will specifically have a view of an infrastructure manager, an important infrastructure manager. We will have the view of the operators, represented by CER, and of course, we will have the European coordinator, Matthias Rütte, who will describe the big picture. Before we go into the speeches, we will show you a video of Madame Izaskun Bilbao Barandica. Izaskun is a member of the European Parliament, and she was the driving force behind the ERTMS report of the European Parliament. And she has some important messages to us. Can we please have the video of Izaskun Bilbao?
Buenos días y muchas gracias por la invitación. Lamento no poder compartir con ustedes esta conferencia y felicito a la ERA porque en los años que llevo trabajando por la integración del mercado ferroviario europeo he encontrado en ella comprensión, apoyo y ayuda. Le he correspondido siempre con confianza y con propuestas para incrementar su mandato, presupuesto y atribuciones. Esta agencia es hoy factor principal en la lucha contra la fragmentación y lo demuestra con iniciativas como esta que inician hoy ustedes en esa auténtica capital europea del ferrocarril en que la ERA ha convertido a Valenciennes. La historia del ferrocarril en Europa requiere que luchemos contra la fragmentación desde la más rigurosa capacidad técnica, pero también obliga a hablar de sentimientos. Cuando presenté mi informe sobre el ERTMS en el Pleno del Parlamento, me obligué a dejar atrás los reproches y las críticas. Tras contactos con todo tipo de agentes, me convencí de que todos estamos de acuerdo en mejorar y de que hay mimbres para trabajar juntos, integrando acción, conocimiento y emoción y evitando recelos. Conseguimos una colección compartida de soluciones prácticas y realistas. Construimos. Creo la confianza que se necesita para trabajar todos a una. Y ese es el objetivo y el camino para conseguir que el sistema ERTMS esté desplegado en 2030 en toda la red básica y en el 2040 en la red global. Según la metodología de seguimiento climático de la Unión, el despliegue del ERTMS representa una contribución del 40% a los objetivos climáticos y ambientales y conecta además con el apoyo al proceso general de digitalización de la economía comunitaria. Por ello, las inversiones relacionadas con este proceso deben de ser una de las prioridades de los planes estatales de recuperación y resiliencia. Se calcula que este sistema de gestión puede incrementar la velocidad y la capacidad de la red principal europea en un 30%. Los datos provenientes de estos equipos son igualmente imprescindibles para el desarrollo de innovadoras aplicaciones telemáticas para pasajeros. Muy acertadamente se ha incluido aquí un bloque temático dedicado a la revisión del correspondiente paquete legislativo. Estas aplicaciones son, para los usuarios, el resultado tangible del sistema inteligente e integrado de movilidad al que aspiramos. El acceso rápido y cómodo a nuevos servicios para resolver nuestra movilidad en un solo clic del primer al último kilómetro. Una transformación que ya es cantera de nuevos empleos. En esta determinación cuentan con el respaldo del Parlamento Europeo, que aprobó por muy amplia mayoría el informe sobre el despliegue del ERTMS del que fui ponente. Apostamos por una estrategia comunitaria para acelerar la sustitución de los sistemas nacionales por el europeo. Pedimos que los planes nacionales se ajusten a objetivos vinculantes de despliegue. Conseguimos evitar excepciones a la instalación del ERTMS en los vehículos nuevos y racionalizar los procedimientos de autorización. Apostamos por limitar duplicidades mediante un registro transparente de prototipos que cuenten con financiación y planteamos un modelo común de financiación, licitación pública para mejorar la contratación para trabajos relacionados con este despliegue. Igualmente, reivindicamos una propuesta legislativa que establezca una estrategia industrial para el ERTMS. Las partes implicadas la consideran imprescindible para incrementar nuestra capacidad, disponer de un presupuesto estable y predecible, apoyar la formación del personal cualificado y la proliferación de talleres de readaptación. Hoy, conmocionados como todos estamos tras la invasión de Ucrania por parte del ejército que manda Vladimir Putin, es un buen momento para persistir en este empeño. La movilidad en nuestra Unión, la mejora de cadenas logísticas básicas, la descarbonización, nuestra competitividad, tienen un aliado imprescindible en el ferrocarril. Espero, por lo tanto, que su trabajo tenga éxito. El despliegue en plazo del Sistema de Gestión del Tráfico Ferroviario Europeo, ERTMS, es un verdadero termómetro de la seriedad con que nos tomamos en la Unión los objetivos del Pacto Verde y el Plan de Recuperación y Resiliencia. Y para ello tenemos que convencer a todos los que están en la posición de decidir que el ERTMS no es la guinda del pastel para nuestras redes, es más bien la levadura que permite que fermenten y florezcan nuestros objetivos compartidos. Adiós.
Many thanks, Izaskun Bilbao, for not only her words of encouragement, she had also made some very concrete announcements, in particular also the possibility of a legal proposal on an industry strategy for ERTMS. And I believe this is a very good handover to our first speaker in the opening session. May I call the stage Matthias Rüte, ERTMS coordinator of the European Union. An applause for Matthias.
Thank you very much, Josef, and good morning, everybody. You must be getting fed up with seeing me. And I have discovered in this conference the real meaning of a European coordinator for ERTMS. It's to intervene 4 times in Josef's conference.
Yeah, but I have to intervene even more, so we share the burden.
But joking aside, I think you have seen with the address of Izaskun Bilbao how strong support we have at the moment in terms of ERTMS in the European Parliament. We also heard it yesterday from Dominique Riquet, and I think this is a very essential part, that 2 parts of the institutional setup, the Commission on the one hand and the Parliament on the other, are pushing very much in the same direction. Obviously the Parliament not being satisfied and pushing a little bit further, and you saw the different elements. Let me just very shortly give you my wish list from experience of the last 2.5 years as ERTMS coordinator. First of all, I think we need a combination of obligations and incentives. And I'll go into the incentives a little bit more in detail, but at the moment at the European Union level, we have the CEF program, the Connecting Europe facility, we have the Recovery and Resilience facility, we have the Cohesion Fund, which all furnish money. We have the European Investment Bank, we have EU Invest also in order to give loans. So there's on the European Union level quite a substantial amount of finance available, which needs to be obviously bundled and then put into concrete projects, and I think this is what we will be talking about today. We also will have, especially with the new 10T guidelines, some more mandatory elements in terms of deploying ERTMS. Izaskun Bilbao was mentioning the 2030 and the 2040 dates. We also have a date of 2025 in terms of start date for deployment of a radio-based ERTMS. So a number of these are only proposals at the moment. A number of proposals are on the table to create a mandatory approach to ERTMS. But to a certain extent, for me, what is also important, and that is also part of the proposal, is the phasing out of Class B systems and getting to a proper governance in terms of ERTMS. And I'm quite sure that we will, Joseph, be discussing the governance very much so. You have already mentioned industrialization. And when we talk about industrialization, we very often just think about the supply industry. Supply industry in terms of, is there the capacity? Do we have enough workshops? All these sort of things. Do we have enough materials now? All these things. But I think we have to think about industrialization in a different way. You have heard me yesterday already say that companies, rail companies, whether they are operators or infrastructure managers, are becoming more and more digital companies. So the transformation of both infrastructure managers and railway undertakings into digital companies is a important part of the industrial strategy. What also has to happen very clearly is that when we have this industrialization, that we move towards a standardization and at the same time move to an approach of an industrial rollout of ERTMS deployment in the different member states. I've seen in a number of member states, just to quote one, which is not a member state, Switzerland, there are concrete plans to develop the rollout of ERTMS on an industrial scale. And I think each infrastructure manager has to do that, and I will be quite interested to hear a little bit about that from the colleagues. What are the real lessons learned that I have taken from the last few years in terms of looking at projects? First of all, we used to have an approach that on the European Union level, we would have projects which would go from infrastructure modernization to the installment of ERTMS and would put everything together, which basically meant that once you delayed on the actual modernization of infrastructure, ERTMS never came because the deadline was over. So we have separated this under the CEF2 facility, and we have now the possibility to go for infrastructure modernization first and then for ERTMS on the second level. Second, why did we have this phenomenon, which actually led to the fact that, this is awful to say, 1/3 of the money that we had earmarked for ERTMS was not spent in the last period. So we separated infrastructure modernization and ERTMS deployment, and because of that, the projects can be more mature. We've seen it, for instance, in the Recovery and Resilience Facility, that some colleagues told me that, yes, we had projects which were relatively mature, and we could just take them out of the fridge or the freezer in order to put them on the table. So a lot of it is also about very good mature project preparation. Even if there's not the money available at the moment, it would be good to have a few projects prepared already if the money becomes available. We have introduced unit costs, which is another way of trying to move towards standardized costs in this area. We have annual calls. We try and give budgets to ERTMS projects every year. Basically, we will also, from hopefully next year onwards, have a kind of annual report that I will be bringing forward. All this put together with the governance, the new governance that we are proposing, which in reality is still a federal governance of the European Rail Agency as a systems authority, the systems pillar in the joint undertaking, the SINIA in terms of the manager of the funds, plus then my role as a coordinator. So that gives, we have already the basis for a much more industrial project oriented deployment strategy than we have at the moment. And you've heard me talk yesterday about the need, especially to develop a deployment strategy in as much as onboard is concerned. Josef, that's all I have to say at the moment, and I hope that I've given a few ideas for discussion later on, and thank you very much for your attention, and I'll disappear afterwards. Please.
Well, many thanks, Matthias. May I ask you to take a seat on the podium? Now it is my special pleasure to welcome on stage Mr. Luc Lallemand, the CEO, President of SNCF Réseau. Applause for Luc. And we are interested to hear your views, please.
Thank you very much, Joseph. And good morning, dear colleagues and friends. And at first, in the name of the hosting country, I would like to wish you a very passionate and productive conference here in Valenciennes. I have a dream. I have a dream, and that is doubling and tripling freight and passenger rail and making European transport carbon neutral by 2050. On the infrastructure manager side, many levers are needed to achieve these objectives. I believe that ERTMS is one lever. That is why we are here today. ERTMS is possibly even a game changer, yet it is not a standalone issue. ERTMS will only be a game changer if we are able to deploy it intelligently as a part of a complex and wider railway system rather than as a standalone subject. Secondly, if we are able to guarantee reasonable stability in specifications, thus optimizing costs. And thirdly, if we are able to find adequate, stable and long-term funding without which deployment will only stand as wishful thinking. ERTMS is meant to be a single and harmonized solution, but the benefits it will bring will not be the same from network to network. I will speak further on about the French case. And the ERTMS will be applied in a very diverse set of situations. This means that benefits and cost-benefit analysis will not be the same all over Europe. In some networks, ERTMS brings safety and additional capacity. In other networks in Europe, where existing systems already guarantee high levels of safety, ERTMS brings extra capacity without improving significantly safety. The cost-benefit assessment will obviously not be the same. Also, the starting point, the actual state of each network is a defining factor in many European countries. We have an extensive and ancient network and a need to absorb considerable backlog. For example, in France, the average of our track is 30 years old. It's about 12, 13 years more than the European mean. And our contact wires are 40 years old. And last but not least, and this is a real problem in digitalizing the network, we have still in France 2,200 signaling boxes that we need to transform into 15 network command centers, 15 concentrated signaling boxes. It's a huge work to realize and to prepare digitalization for further steps. So what interest in deploying ERTMS or even CCR if your network is aging and depleted? It is like buying a Ferrari to ride on a dirt road. Would anyone do that? My first conclusion is therefore that our first priority must be to renew and enhance our existing network and going massively to digitalization, and while doing this, build in the new bricks that will make further ERTMS deployment efficient and cost-effective. My second point, or the second point that I would like to highlight, goes as follows. Because ERTMS is meant to be a solution for interoperability, because we need to optimize costs, reasonable stability in specifications is absolutely paramount. Instability hinders operability because it continually introduces new incompatibilities amongst versions, and instability results in past and current investments becoming quite rapidly obsolete at an accelerated pace. Continual variations in baselines, ultimately correction error policies, additional obligations such as mandatory decommissioning of Class B system result in much dispersal of energy and resources, and we all know how resources are rare and not only financial means, but also qualified people to realize it. The future will require frugality, lean and mean, also in ERTMS. Therefore, a second conclusion that I would like to share with you is, and I will put it in a question, should we not, instead of constantly adding changes with potentially little added value at the end of the line, aim directly to the real game changer, and that is the moving block. ERTMS Level 3 hybrid that we are going at SNCF Réseau in France, that we are going to deploy on the line in the south of the country, Marseille-Ventimiglia, in the coming years, will open the way to the moving block in France. But I say that with all humility, it's really a very first step, I think in a good conceptual direction. I see that as a sort of forerunner in the right strategic way. And then my third point is on financial sustainability. Renewing the network and giving stability to specification are both necessary, yet not enough. There is an overall financial challenge to investigate. To be truly effective, ERTMS needs to be deployed in a wide, harmonized and possibly even accelerated manner across the European network. But ERTMS is only one among a very wide set of requirements, TEN-T, TSIs and so on, that will need to be financed throughout the next 30 years. Approximately 1,500 billion euro are needed to complete the TEN-T railway network, and just to remind, it's about 100 23,000 kilometers out of approximately 200,000 kilometers of railways in Europe, so about 60%. How is this to be financed? Extensive public, national and European funding will be required, and I heard very good, I listened to the speech of Matthias, and I will ask, in all modesty, please show me the money. If funding is adequate, one lever to invest in an efficient manner will be to establish priorities. These priorities could be: priority number one, renew and enhance the network, as I said earlier. We have, for example, in France, other stages to do before ERTMS, to prepare ERTMS, to take the full benefits of ERTMS. The second priority is digitalize operations on the network to improve performance, capacity, and to reduce costs. For example, I talked about the concentration of the signaling boxes. And the priority number three is establish an order in development projects based on two criteria. The first, select projects that would have contribution to desaturating congested lines and nodes. For that reason, we'll equip the high-speed line between Paris and Lyon in 2025 for that reason. And the second one is catalyzing substantial modal shift in the second place, high speed versus flying on long, medium distances, national or international, regardless of borders, and metropolitan services versus road transport on short distances with continuity. We can rise to the challenge of interoperability and of a carbon neutral transport by 2050 with a reasonable stability both on specifications and general infrastructure requirements, a rational ordering of investments according to priorities, and thirdly, substantial public funding. The success of ERTMS will not be measured merely through the number of kilometers deployed, but also in our capability to finance this huge transition and this passionate transition, and to offer perspectives to the supply industry. Thank you for your attention.
Many thanks, Luc Lallemand. Please, Luc, also join us on stage. And now I call on stage our third speaker of this morning, Alberto Mazzola, Executive Director of the Community of European Railway Undertakings and Infrastructure Managers. Alberto, the floor is yours. Applause for Alberto Mazzola.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Joseph, for inviting the Community of European Railways and Infrastructure Companies to this event. It is very important for us. We have devoted a lot of attention to ERTMS in the last years, and in particular last year. I would like to bring to the discussion today some reflection that we had. Let me say we are representing, first of all, 90% of rail passenger operators in Europe, more than 80% of rail freight operators, including public and private operators, and more than 70% of the infrastructure managers in Europe. So we try to develop inside the association a position that will cover all the interest, at least in terms of railways, of the persons and companies that need to provide the services to passengers and freight business. So this is, as I said, an important point. I would like to make a few comments on the points that we have. Izaskun Bilbao presented a bit of framework. Matthias and Luc Lallemand also completed. Let's say that last year, as Community of European Railways, together with the European Commission, we organized a train that ran around Europe from Lisbon to Paris, crossing all countries. Let me say, when we were traveling all around Europe, we detected in this European Year of Rail a strong interest everywhere in Europe to invest and to develop railways. Almost everywhere, let me say, almost everywhere, but in most part of Europe, we detected very strongly. Let me make some examples, two examples that may be far away from what we are discussing today. In the Czech Republic, we discussed with the Deputy Prime Minister the development of a high-speed network between Prague and Brno that should be connected then between Prague and Berlin and Brno to Vienna in order to have a high-speed connection Berlin-Vienna. This will make the trip from 8 hours and 30, which is today Berlin-Vienna, to 4 hours. So everybody has been as far as you go beyond the 6 hours, or for business on the 4 hours, everybody takes the train instead of the plane. It's an example in Czech Republic. In Poland, they're still reflecting also, and they are investing also in developing high speed. Let's say in other parts, in France is very well developed in Spain, even a larger network, in Italy, in Germany, but so far we have islands. I said the connection between Paris, Brussels, and Amsterdam, which is the only international high-speed connection we have. All the rest is very national. Why I'm making these examples? Because if you want to connect on passenger and on freight, the need is even there from the last years, definitely we need ERTMS to contribute. Otherwise, we will have non-interoperable, trains all around Europe. You had the experience when you were in your previous job to develop an high-speed train in Europe. You know how much it costs to develop an high-speed train that is able to run in different countries, at least 30% more than the normal price, and then you add on cost, and now we make difficult life in running trains. So as I said, last year and this year we had very strong positive comments on railways and expectations, but let me say that we need to fulfill. So expectations are high, we need to fulfill it. Getting to ERTMS, ERTMS started in 1995. We are in 2022. At 10%, I think that the speed or the pace at which we deploy the ERTMS in this year has been very, very low and slow. I think if you made the calculation, and I made once, but I think it's important, even if it takes more than 200 years if you go at this speed. So no industrial project makes sense if we continue at the speed that we are. This is why inside CR last year we started to reflect. And I would say all the CEOs of the infrastructure managers, but also freight operators and passenger operators dedicated attention to this topic and said we need definitely to accelerate the deployment. From 200 years, we need to go to 20 years in order to make the project credible. And let's say, starting from that, we discussed and defined some ideas. Some of them we find now in the 10T proposal. We are very happy to have read what you said. So keeping the deadline of 2030 for the core network, even though we know it's tight, but at least we have a deadline. We can go 2, 3, 4 years more, but not 20 years or 50 years longer than what is expected. Commission is anticipating also 2040 for the rest of the network. We are fine also as association. On decommissioning, we are fine, but we would like to have a bit some more flexibility, as Lucas said. So in order to be able also to keep in certain cases without hindering interoperability, just to underline this, the possibility to have Class B system very limited, but definitely most of infrastructure managers are asking to have the possibility to decommission. Because when you invest in a new system and you keep the old system and the rolling stock goes partly in old and new system, at the end we keep only the old system. So we need to find a way also for the infrastructure managers that are investing to have a strategy to decommission the Class B system and give trust and trust to operators that definitely the system will be workable. We have one member in the association who installed the ERTMS on the locomotives, I think 2013. They told me they never switch it on the system. So for 9 years, they had a system, they invested in an asset that is completely useless. Of course, we cannot go on a strategy like this. And let's say, getting to the points, what we have seen in the 10T proposal is very much welcome, the reinforcement of the coordinator, and we are very happy that Matthias Rutte is here with us, and you took very strongly your job and you're pursuing it. So we are behind, in front of by you to support you on all the activity that you need. And I think we would like, let me say, we propose to the members of the Parliament and the Council to even reinforce your role. We'd like to have even a stronger role, if we may, on that. We are very happy what that in the 4 railway package, the European Rail Agency has taken the role of system authority, not full, on board and partially on track. But I think we trust that you will deliver also, because we need. If we need to have, I would say, one single system in Europe that is everywhere compatible and we can trust it, we need to trust you, and you need to do your job in order to achieve these results. So on that alliance, we are happy. Let's say that in terms of program management, we would like something stronger, because we have many actors. At the end, if you ask who is responsible, what happened in the last 25 years, it's difficult to understand who is responsible. So we need to find certainly a program management which is very strong, and that give the confidence in the next 15, 20 years that we will be able to deliver on that. One key point here, which is a bit missing, is certainly the finance. And let's say also that in the proposal we have seen the 10T is still a bit missing. So we would like at least to involve, as a next stage, the SINEA, so the Agency of European Union, which has a budget of 50 billion euros to be invested in 10T and the environment, to be involved. Let me say we would like also the infrastructure managers of Europe to be involved in this adventure. You cannot guide from far away and then ask infrastructure managers to deliver or do things. You need to involve them, to bring them around the table with SINEA, with the coordinator, with the member states. Member states and coordinator, in our opinion, are not enough. Why? Just to be clear. Member states, if it would be the Minister of Transport or Minister of Economy, would be very fine. But when we see this will be a middle manager in the Ministry of Transport with no budget, no possibility to say I spend €1 million more. So we need to have something stronger here if we want to deliver. And we think that infrastructure managers has the capacity. They have a bigger role in each country. They are able to talk to the government. They are the authority, or the companies that will deliver and will install ERTMS. So I think it's important they are around the table. Definitely also suppliers and railway undertaking in order to provide. So we would like to see a bit more there, a structure that includes also financing. Let me say also, we had long discussions, and I think all around in this room knows, should we install first and rolling stock, first on the infrastructure manager, how we manage the two together. At the end, when you install on one, the other doesn't, you don't install the other, it's not useful. So we came to the point that we need to have a synchronized, so a strategy where you install on the same time the infrastructure and rolling stock that are running there. And just to be also very clear, we would like that this is paid also for railway undertakings, paid also by public funds. It takes some years from that to get to the point, but I think the estimation has been made is 5%, the cost of rolling stock compared to the entire system. I think we need to be able also to invest and to support that. Unfortunately, the 4 railway package that completely separated infrastructure managers and railway undertakings with no possibility to fund or cross-fund and use that has been quite negative in this aspect. I think it would be good if infrastructure managers could support that. But definitely we need to find a way where both parts are paid and supported by public funds, and we pushed on that. The size of the program is huge. Figures are probably ERTMS alone, maybe it's 20 billion, including digital interlocking and all that's needed, we go to 100 billion euros. With such a program, when you reflect 100 billion euros, you understand also what we mean by program management. We need to be able to deliver and to keep the timetable of what we want to achieve there. So all actors should be included. Let's say, in terms of industrialization, I will not say more than, but I would like to underline what has been said by Matthias and Luc. I think we are very keen also to have an industrial product that can fulfill and very, I would say, simple, provide the results. let's say the price is an issue. So I think we have seen that in the last 20 years, the price didn't go down for the same product. It's not normal in terms of electronic products. So we would like to see also a possibility with such a large project and the numbers that we are seeing in front of us that we are able to reduce pricing and, I would say, help to develop and play it. I will stop here in the points that we have. Let me say that the point that we are pushing now is governance, program management, financing, so that this can be real. And on a positive note, I say there is expectation in this moment, expectation that we deliver. So it's an opportunity. There is a strong push on railways. I don't know if it will last more than 10 years or 7 years, but certainly in these years that we have, we need to deliver, and it's a big opportunity for ERTMS. Thank you again for inviting us.
Many thanks, Alberto. Alberto, please join us also on stage. And now we have some 10 minutes left for you to interact with our eminent panel of speakers. Is there anybody got any question to our speakers? Yes, Klaus. Klaus Mindl von Unisig.
It will work? Okay. I'm very grateful for Matthias Rüther bringing up an aspect of industrialization, so that the focus is not just only on product industrialization, but industrialization process, etc. Do you have an idea and a perception what this means in terms of quantity? So giving us a feeling about the relevance of product versus project industrialization.
Who wants to take this up? Perhaps Luc or Alberto? Matthias has...
I'm used to answering questions that I don't know how to answer. and I will play it back to you, because the industrialization of the ERTMS rollout, you have to separate, first of all, obviously, between the trackside and the vehicles. And then you have to turn to each infrastructure manager in terms of saying, what are your concepts? And if I may, as a caricature, say, for instance, in Italy, we have an approach where we have a vision of a network, and then this network being built up, I think some experiences already there in the north, whereas in France, there's more a vision of corridors or lines rather than a network. In Germany, you have this approach with centers, where in reality the interlockings are then in control centers. So you have in the Netherlands, you have the approach where you first of all do it in the north, use the north as the guinea pig, and then so to a certain extent you have a very, very different strategies in different member states. And I think one of the issues of this platform of ERTMS coordinators and national coordinators would be to bring together the different models and to have a look at that and to exchange on that in order to see how to do so. Perhaps I've kicked you off in terms of intervening.
Yeah, Alberto has already reacted. Alberto, please.
If I may on this, I receive from time to time questions from the industries. Is ERTMS going ahead or not? Do we need to invest in the product or not? I receive a few questions. So I receive consultants that come to see me that are working for probably your companies and say, do we need to invest? Do we need you to invest? To what extent to invest? Is this a project credible or not? This is the questions that I receive. I understand. I was in the industry before, a long time ago. So and when you do a business plan, you need to understand what is the market in front of me, to what extent should be able to do this. Let's say in this moment there is a credibility on what we are doing. And if you look at the size of the market, you can make it. So 200,000 kilometers, the network. So far is 100,000. The investment on track is 100,000 euro per kilometer. You can make the calculation. We have 50,000 rolling stock. So far, the price was, let me say, I was looking very different from country to country. You can go 300,000 to 800,000. You can make your calculation. I think you know it better than me. So you have a market. I understand you need to see, are we going to deliver? Are railway undertakings infrastructure manager going to order all these products? I think the program started in many countries. Belgium is going fully ERTMS. Italy is going, Germany is going, Netherlands, Denmark. So many countries are really moving in this direction. So in my opinion, the market is there. You have the antennas in the different bodies. So the market is there, is delivering. What we would like, that is delivering in an appropriate way. Nobody wants to find, after 15 years of investment, that we are as before. Different islands or not being able to reduce the cost and get the benefits on using infrastructure that we like to see. So that's how I see it. In my opinion, it's credible. Something that is coming in the different countries. Maybe if we help each other, we go even faster. Where we like to see a stronger role is program management, that we are sure that we deliver. And certainly suppliers should be part of the picture. Without it, it doesn't work.
Many thanks, Alberto. Luc, anything to add from your side?
No, just adding a few words with my two colleagues, and I'm completely in line with what they said. Just to give a cross experience, because I have the chance to have had responsibilities even in Belgium and now in France. In fact, what Matthias said is important and is based on the historical situation of each country. For example, 20 years ago in Belgium, Belgium was the last pupil in the class in terms of safety system, not having even a system to stop trains at a red light. So it was really strategic to make a substantial step forward. But in France, co-inventor of the high-speed trains, you have historical systems that are very good. KVB has a historical national system, has a very good level of coverage of the risk. And then you have the TVM system designed for high-speed trains that has about the same functionalities as ERTMS, except interoperability. So the point from where you are coming is very important to measure the delta in added value compared with the investment price. That does not mean that we would be less motivated in France to realize it. No, because we have also an important and strategic equipment strategy, but that means that maybe compared to other countries, that the global added value is a little bit less if you compare with other historical situations. But the motivation is there to do it.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful to our panelists because you have highlighted the key challenge that we have in ERTMS. The key challenge, and it is also relating to the aspect of industrialization, is we have individual historic situations in the individual countries. We have individual incentives to invest or not on the basis of the respective priorities in the respective countries. You mentioned Belgium, where the priority was clearly on safety. But on top of it, we have also the European vision, yeah? The vision of interoperability, the vision of ERTMS as an enabler of cross-border transport, cross-border freight, cross-border rail. And this challenge to combine the needs, the ambitions at national level with the ambition at European level to connect first the island to a network in the country, but then to connect the European islands to a European network, I believe this is the challenge that we all have. And this is also where I completely agree with Alberto. For this ambition, we need a stronger program management. We have time for one final question. Yes, Jorge, please.
Hello, I'm Jorge Iglesias from FedEx Spain. I have not one question, I have three questions for the three speakers. The first one is for Matthias. It's related to the tools that the Commission have to speed up the commissioning of the Class B systems. The second one is for Luc Lallemand. I fully agree with your statement.
Translate.
You don't hear? I fully agree with your statement that France has a very good Class B system, but please consider that if we want to be connected to Europe, we have to pass through France. And the third question for Alberto is the ERTMS price is still very high. Do you think we already have a real free market all around Europe? Thank you.
Okay, many thanks, Jorge. So, Matthias, the question for you was, which tools do we have as you as EU coordinator, the European Commission, or perhaps even us as ERA, to force the decommissioning of Class B?
My straight answer is at the moment none. Because to a certain extent, if you look at the legal situation, present legal situation, we can go on with Class B systems, as the Brits would say, till the cows come home. So in reality, and this is one of the big issues of the TEN-T proposal, and then also the TSI CCS, in order to make sure that we have a managed phase out of Class B systems. Because what we don't want is a situation where suddenly an infrastructure manager, perhaps for political reason, has to decide to switch off the Class B system because the ERTMS is installed. So you need a reasonable transition period, so you need predictability. But you also need, to a certain extent, a deadline, and this is the thing that we're trying to do at the moment.
Yeah. Many thanks, Matthias. The second question of Jorge was more a statement, and it is related, of course, on the one hand to the Class B, but on the other hand to the ETCS strategy of France, because he rightfully stated that if Spain wants to be connected to Europe, Spain is forced to go through France. So any comments on that, Luc?
I think the question or the comment are associated to developing concurrence. And we are helping very much new entrants in France to activate and to motivate the opening of the market. It makes part of my feuille de route concerning the French government to have other operators than SNCF. So not only we are looking at that, we are very actively helping possible new candidates. And I went with my team, with Thomas Joindot, here present, for example, in Madrid, to help Renfe in September to realize and to success in equipping their rolling stock to offer a new service. I will not speak too much about that because it is their responsibility, but to realize their ambition, for example, between Paris and Lyon, when the line will be equipped, if my understanding is correct, and that is with the deadline in 2025, because at that time the line Paris-Lyon will be equipped in ERTMS.
Many thanks, Luc, and I'm also very grateful that you have related this question of ERTMS also to the more fundamental question of open access to networks and competition. And this, of course, leads over to the third question of Jorge. He was asking, we see that the prices of ERTMS equipment are high, and do you believe that there is a functioning market for ERTMS equipment?
Since as association we are not buying products, so we don't have a direct finger in the market, let me say, but we hear what our members are saying. I would like just to say that it's important that we have a market. So we still have a few suppliers in Europe. I think it's important that we have a lively market. I think that the coordinator, together probably the DG competition and the antitrust, should follow this issue, and that we keep the market as live as possible. So I cannot ensure you and say, we would expect as clients, representative clients, that prices should go down. And due to the size of the market that we are talking, I think there is expectations that prices will go down. Even if we are able to save 25%, we are talking about billions of euros. So it's a key point, what you're raising the question. We will follow on as an association in the terms that it's legitimate to follow these things. But I think the coordinators, antitrust, should always have a look on these things. Let's say it's a huge market. It's very important for European suppliers. It's very important for European clients. So let's follow it. I'm not saying yes or no, but certainly the expectation is that prices for the same products should go down. And the product is standardized, it should be much helpful.
Yeah, and of course, the more cost-effective the product is, the quicker the deployment should be. So many thanks to our panelists, Matthias Rüther, Luc Lallemand, Alberto Mazzola. Round of applause. Thank you very much. Now we come to the coffee break, and just remark, we will do a group picture now, and please, you will be guided after you leave the meeting room before you take your coffee, your croissant, please join us for the group picture. Thank you very much. So I have a small present for each one of you.